and welcome to the next episode of Talking About. This month, we're taking over presenting duties. My name is Kevin Barker McGill, and I'm so pleased to be joined by...
I'm Jazz. Thank you, Kevin. I'm really excited to be here, and today we're talking about neurodiversity. The idea that neurological differences, such as autism, dyslexia, and ADHD, are just natural variations of the human mind. And like any other form of diversity, these differences really should be recognised, respected, and embraced. Neurodiversity reminds us that we all think, communicate, and move in our own unique ways. And that celebrating diversity benefits everyone. So to help us explore this very important topic, we have the lovely Megan and Georgia, who will be sharing their experiences and insights.
Georgia, Megan, thank you both so much for being here. It's so much appreciated. Let us just start first by getting to know you both. So I'm really sort of eager to know really. If you could tell us a bit about yourselves and your journey, but in particular, your journey with neurodiversity. Megan, we'll come to you first for that one.
Sure. So I'm Megan. I'm an engineer and process manager at Sky. So kind of working with the process of how we take devices all the way through from research and development, went through to deployment and then into continual improvement. Now, my journey of neurodiversity, it's been, I guess, quite a recent one in the sense that I only actually got my diagnosis of autism in, I want to say 2020 or 2021.
It's not long ago then.
No. So the way it came about was a bit unfortunate in the sense that I was in a period of crisis at the time, and I ended up seeing a psychiatrist, and she essentially said to me, have you ever thought about if you've got autism? And I was kind of like, what do you mean? Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she was like, oh yeah, I noticed like loads of symptoms in you that I see in my sister. And it was kind of from that point, it was a bit of like a light bulb moment, and it was like, oh, right, this actually could apply to me. But I think for me at the time, I was working with disabled children, so a lot of children who've had autism, and I was like, well, I can't be autistic and be working with autistic children. So I think that, to get my head around that, because obviously it's a spectrum, and the spectrum is so vast
of course,
that like you can't really compare two people's experiences, and I think that's what I was trying to do. So sort of the past couple of years, it's been sort of me trying to understand my kind of journey and kind of what that means in terms of how it impacts me, what sort of coping strategies work for me, and I've sort of learned lots of techniques to kind of essentially use the autism to my strength. And then recently, I'm currently actually waiting for a diagnosis for ADHD.
Okay.
Because I think there's still, I think, a piece of the puzzle that's missing. And I think that might be it. So I'm exploring that too.
Cool. It's just something that you feel, I suppose.
Yeah,
something...
exactly. Like growing up, it was always like, I felt different, but I could never explain it. Like friendships have always been incredibly difficult for me. I just don't understand the concept of friendships. Like I just lose friends very easily because I'm just like, well, why are we doing this for the sake of doing this type of thing? And so I always thought something was different. It was always like I was always blaming myself. And then for me, the diagnosis was almost like that acceptance that, you know what, look, it's not you. There is something different about the way that your brain works, but that's okay. So it was almost just cutting myself a little bit of slack.
Yeah, it's absolutely okay. George, I imagine a lot of that resonates with you. So if you could talk us through your journey and obviously just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, cool. So I'm Georgia. I work
in
the studio in C and CE. So I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I was in like year 6, so about 9 or 10 years old. And then much more recently, in maybe like 2022, I got diagnosed with ADHD. So there's quite a jump between the two, but there's obviously like a lot of overlap with them. And I think like if you have dyslexia, I think like the Venn diagram of people who have dyslexia and ADHD is massive, and like it's been exploring more about the overlap between autism and ADHD, and like it's way more common that people have more than more.
And I think it's difficult as well because the two conditions almost contradict each other.
Okay,
so like
interesting.
For example, I like with autism, it's like I need to have routine. Things need to be consistent. I need to sort of know what I'm doing and when. Whereas then like the ADHD part is like, I'm bored, I want to do something else. What's next? And it's sort of like, okay, let's switch things up, do something different. So it's kind of like that it's always contradicting in your head, and it's kind of trying to find a balance between the two.
Yeah, and how do you do that then on a day-to-day basis?
I mean, it is really difficult. Obviously, there are different routes with like ADHD in terms of like medication, but I think for me, it's personally just a lot of mindfulness and trying to put things into perspective.
Yeah.
But I think it's almost like there's another element then of autism and ADHD that can then coexist.
Okay.
But it's not just that, in the sense that I wouldn't say that's what affects me the most. It's almost the anxiety and depression that then comes as a result of the autism and ADHD. So it's kind of like everything combines together. So it's just like this concoction of stuff that you have to try and manage. So yeah, it's just a lot of balancing.
Cool, thank you. Before we move on, Georgia, anything else from yourself?
Not really. Just kind of, I guess there was maybe with the dyslexia and everything, there's the issue of maybe more around like schooling, like, so because obviously your literacy is massively affected. So I wasn't still not the best reader. But so reading and writing was always kind of a bit of a struggle, but where I kind of passed all my classes and everything, I wasn't like dyslexic enough to require like one-to-one support, which meant that a lot of the time I'd be getting like decent grades, like C's and everything. But when I got to university and I was paying for my support, I was then able to get much higher grades because I was receiving the support I needed. And then as I continued through university, I then found like I did a postgrad in creative teaching, and then when I was learning about like facilitating learning and everything like that, and learning about neurodiversity, I was like, actually, I think I've got a bit more than just dyslexia going on, which then led me to look into ADHD. And
tell us more about that support. So you've said that when you moved into your university that you had a lot more support. So what did that look like, and how did you benefit from that?
Yeah, so for example, in secondary school, a lot of the support was very kind of like basic. It was like, let's read this kids book together, and it felt very patronizing as well, because I was like, I do understand the words, I'm just like not necessarily the most fluent reader, and it almost felt like they were missing what I needed, whereas I needed the kind of structure and the talking about my ideas, and then having someone help me edit them and put them into a better format, because I'd have all the ideas and everything, but I'd almost be overwhelmed probably with the ADHD with all the ideas and everything, that I just wouldn't know where to start or where to focus. And then with the one-to-one tutorials in uni, I had like a weekly session that required, it was the accountability of having someone looking at my work every week and being like, well, we said we were going to do this, and you've not done that, so now we have to do that, and da 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 da. And just having that extra accountability, I think, also helped.
It must be nice, as Georgia said, for that piece of the puzzle to come together. Meg and Georgia, thank you both so much for that intro and giving us, I suppose, some background in terms of yourselves and obviously your diagnosis, etc. We are going to move on. I think, Jazz, you've got some interesting figures.
Yeah, I just find it really interesting to discover that 15 to 20% of the population who are neurodiverse, that it's not the challenges with the differences, like you've explained. It's more about the environment, how it's not designed to be able to support somebody who is neurodiverse. So I guess, Georgia, Megan, I'll come to you first.
That's going to happen throughout, isn't it? Sorry.
How has your neurodiversity, how's that, shaped your perspective and your approach to work?
So I think definitely with work, it's flexibility for me is like number one priority, because the way my brain works, it's like, I think this is where like looking for the ADHD diagnosis, this kind of where it mainly came from. It's like my brain, I describe it kind of like it's like the Duracell bunny. Like my brain is like on 120% all the time. So when it's on 120%, I have to work. But that might be at midnight. That might be at 2:00 in the morning. I don't know when that's going to be. So I kind of have to work when I'm able to work, because then other times my brain just completely switches off, and then because it's so rare that my brain does switch off, when it does eventually switch off, that's when I have to be like, okay, look, my body now needs to sleep because my brain's actually slowed down. So yeah, it's kind of like trying to balance that. So the flexibility of work, and obviously working part American hours for me has been a dream.
Really?
Yeah, that's been a dream because my brain is a lot more awake at night.
Okay.
So the late nights kind of work a lot better for me personally. But I think it is such a personal thing, and it's just trying to figure out what works for you. And I think like you can try loads of different strategies, and what works for one person might not work for another, and like vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a bit of a trial and error to figure out what you need and what you kind of need in that environment. But it doesn't mean it's not still difficult. Like I remember the other day I was in tears on my bed talking to my fiance, and I was saying to him, I was like, does everyone find it this hard? Like I'm exhausted all the time, everything's overwhelming, and it's just too much. And that's like, we've got a dog, and I'm like, how are we going to do kids? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, in the future, I'm just like, I literally can hardly look after myself and a dog. How are we ever going to cope with children?
I don't
and
know, a
just,
dog's hard to work sometimes.
Well,
Who
yeah.
knows? Huh?
But yeah, so it's just things like that. Like, it does get overwhelming at times, but then I think it's in those moments, you just kind of need to ground yourself and then sort of put things back into perspective. And it's almost just like that one step at a time, and sort of just take the punch to stay calm.
I think it goes back to what you said at the beginning, that mindfulness and just having that awareness about it as well. But it's great to hear that you're able to have that flexibility at work, and that really supports your wants and needs as well. Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Megan. Georgia, how about yourself?
So I think mine is more, so I think my experiences have informed what career I've gone down in general. So where I struggled with communication growing up, I then wanted to create communication that could then be accessible for people. So I always, whenever I'm designing, even if it's like a logo or something, I'm still thinking it's always about the user, and thinking about that broad user and just embedding that into like everything that I do. So not just to benefit myself, but anyone else who would also have those kind of issues. So.
That's great. It's like almost like your superpower, you know, when you're thinking you've got a different lens, you've got a different lens on it, and the fact that you are thinking of the user, but thinking from a neurodiverse approach as well. Brilliant. So I'm just going to stick with you, Georgia, as well. Have you ever felt, you know, coming into work or being with your team, that you've ever had to hide or mask?
I think there is an element of it. Like, I'm always very open about my neurodiversity, like because it helps with education awareness. It's part of me. Like, I can't hide it. But I think there is a massive part of it, because especially with the ADHD side, like a massive part of that is emotional dysregulation and rejection sensitivity disorder. So I've had to work very hard to kind of like manage my emotions in general, and just make sure I'm not reacting. So like, just take that time. Like, I might be annoyed by even like the simplest thing, like maybe like an email tone sounded weird. So I was like, well, they must hate me now. And so then I have to like take a minute and be like, actually, maybe they just wanted to send the email quickly because they've got a busy day and it's not that deep. And
there's no smiley face emoji.
As per my last email.
In tears. But then, and then I think with the RSD, that was particularly difficult because particularly in like my kind of role, everything you do, everyone has an opinion on it because people look at it. But I'm very, very thankful that in university, feedback and crit was so integral to what we did. So I think in a way, if I didn't have that, I might not be as resilient to feedback. So that's kind of the main challenges. But in terms of like general masking and stuff, I don't think so too much, because I will just like sit and fidget if I need to. Like, I don't really mind doing that. But, yeah.
Excellent, thanks so much. And do you find as well, Georgia, just sticking with you, if we think about Sky and the culture that we've created, I know certainly I've learned so much from, you know, like the Neurodiversity, the Body and Mind Network. There's so much out there that we could really educate ourselves. But do you find that's played a big impact for you?
I think Megan of Neurodiversity Network.
Yeah.
I think the community that you're creating is like really beneficial, and just like everyone can very casually talk about things. So I think within that community, it's like very supportive and everything. And then I think it's good to see the buy-in from wider Sky in that, and like platforming the events and everything like that. I think there's obviously
work to be done.
Still work to be done.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of like my direct team and everything, I think everyone's always like quite on board to listen and everything. Be nice to see maybe more kind of proactive stuff, not necessarily coming from the neurodiversity community, having it come from
Allies.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Georgia. Megan, coming to you, just very similar question as well. Like, have you had those moments or those experiences where you felt at work, and now you're part of the network, the Neurodiversity Network, but have you ever felt that yourself that you've had to mask or hide?
So I think, like, with me, I'm very much all the cards are on the table type of thing. Take it or leave it. If you don't want to accept it, I'll walk out type of thing. I'm happy with that. That's not a problem, because I think, like Georgia said, it is part of us. It's so difficult for us to not bring that to work. I think I would say I still probably do mask. I'm trying to get better at not masking, but I think it's just something that for me, and especially with women, we do it almost so naturally, and it's like our defense mechanism to essentially support ourselves and basically to keep ourselves almost from getting hurt in a way. So I think because I've done it for so long, it is so difficult to break that. But there will be like certain people who I'll be able to be completely unmasked with. So like, for example, at the moment I'm planning my wedding, and my maid of honour is...
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. But like, my maid of honour, I also work with her, and she's like one of the only people I can be completely unmasked with. It'll be like, we'll go out and I'll be like, please don't talk to me. Like, I can't deal with this today. Like, I remember the other day she was asking me loads of questions, and I was like, Saf, I can't deal with another question right now. Like, please do not ask me a question. So it's just kind of finding like your people and like the people who can sort of support you. I think in terms of like my team, obviously, given my move to my manager now being in America, that's quite a big challenge for me, because obviously like building that relationship, I've never actually met her in person, so for me kind of like trying to build that relationship over a screen is something that's been quite difficult. So I think it is something that I'm still trying to navigate, but they are sort of really supportive of me, and like they will try and do whatever they can to, if they need to get someone on this side of the ocean to come and help me, that will be able to sort it out as well. So yeah, so it's kind of manageable. And I think for me, like obviously last year, or the year before maybe now, oh god, it's been 2 years, I stepped up as co-chair for the Neurodiversity Network. So kind of as my role in that, it's kind of given me a platform to kind of help other people. So it's basically trying to use my voice and try to sort of support other people where we can. And like, we've done a lot of work this past year in terms of building the network, sort of building that community where you can feel comfortable to have these conversations. I mean, like, one quite good example of this, obviously, the recent redundancies that are happening around CSG. Our last community call, we decided to kind of dedicate to sort of neurodiversity and anxiety and sort of how to navigate that. And that session, I think, was one of our most warm and opening ones, because people were just so honest, and it's just people wanting to help people. And I think that's what our community is all about.
So we've naturally started to move in and chat about some of the challenges which you guys have spoken about, but flipping that, actually, what are some of the positives of neurodiversity? And Georgia, we'll come to you for this one.
Cool. So I would say that with any positive, there is also kind of the balance that it can then lead to kind of more negative implications. So for example, if I hyper-focus on something and get loads of work done and I'm super productive and everything like that, I will then be exhausted. Okay. So even though great for my work, got lots done, but then I just have to be very mindful of the fact that it can have negative impacts, like actually on myself.
Yeah.
And then another positive for me would potentially be the being able to flip between tasks quite easily. Like, as long as I've got my list and it's prioritized, because I'm not very good at that, then
Join the club.
then I can get like through those tasks quite easily and like do that kind of thing. But yeah, I think in general, maybe also kind of the empathy and the interest in like I was saying, with the communication and everything like that, I think that is a major benefit for me.
Cool. And how about yourself, Megan?
So I think for me, it's a lot of it's kind of around like my attention to detail, and kind of like, I guess part of that plays into like my determination. So if someone tells me I can't do something, I'm like, it's gonna happen. So like
Love
watch,
that.
watch me.
So like even with my degree, like I did electrical and electronic engineering at uni, and it was, my parents hate when I say this, but pretty much the only reason I did the degree was because someone told me girls can't do it, and I was
Good on
like,
you.
well, no, they can. So I'm going to go to uni, get a degree. And it was just a bit like, okay, I've not got a degree, now what, sort of thing. But I think it's almost because of the way my brain works, that kind of engineering mindset. Like, so a lot of engineers have neurodiverse conditions.
Yeah.
And I think it's just kind of like there's a little bit of a stigma around it, in the sense that people who are engineers are just sort of autistic and they kind of just do their work and sort of stick to themselves, sort of thing. So it's kind of a little bit of breaking that barrier. But yeah.
Cool. Brilliant. And in terms of support, what support has made a real difference for you guys at work? Whoever wants to take this one.
Do you want to go?
Yeah,
first?
sure, I'll go start. So I think for me at work, it's obviously like the flexibility from my managers, not micromanaging me. Like, as soon as someone micromanages me, that's just me done. Because
it.
I think the thing with me is, I'll get something done. If you give me a deadline, it will be done. It might be done an hour before the deadline and I've stayed up till 3 a.m. working on it, but it will get done. So it's kind of like, I'll procrastinate for a week and then stay up probably doing all-nighters to get it sorted, but I will always deliver on what I've said I will. And I think for me, it's just kind of like the whole hot desking thing. That doesn't happen.
Okay.
That is a big no-no for
Georgia
me.
doesn't agree with that either.
That is a big no-no for me. And I mean, so at work, in my office, I've got a set desk and I've got all my stuff set up. it says Megan's desk on it with a little plaque. And it's kind of like, everyone knows, like, don't sit in Megan's desk.
Okay.
And it's all like, it's my desk, you know. And even like to the extent that when other people are hot desking, I get confused because I'm like, well, no, that person normally sits here, but now they're not there. So where can I find them? And it's all of these things then that go through my head, all because someone's not sat in the same place. And it's just like, how does it end up spiraling so quickly? Because then it's like the anxiety of you go there and there might not be a desk, but then I'm just not going to go into the office. So it's all of these little things that kind of accumulate to become a big thing in our heads. So I think something so simple as having an assigned desk. And then sort of for me, the noise in the office is often too much. So I have noise cancelling headphones. Okay. So a lot of it is like little things that can be done that I think people, unless you're neurodiverse, don't necessarily think about the impact that those things would have.
Megan, something's telling me that you're really determined and...
Oh, God, yeah. Honestly, you don't want to challenge me to anything because I will do it.
Love that attitude.
Yeah, I don't take no for an answer.
Georgia, what about yourself?
So I think a major one for me also, I don't have a plaque or anything on my desk, but we kind of amongst the team agreed, like, I sit in the same spot every week. But I think a major one for me is just like the support I get from my manager. So she's very good at helping me prioritize tasks, breaking down if it's a larger brief with lots of deliverables, setting almost like micro deadlines for those as well, and kind of more that kind of organizational part, because that's not necessarily associated with ADHD being very organized. Like, my files and everything are really organized because I have like systems in order to combat how disorganized my brain is. So it's like so there's the kind of thing, you're either always late or always early if you have ADHD, and I'm always early, just because I'm preempting the fact I will be late and everything like that. So Yeah, I think the main one that I get from work is prioritization and organization, and just also I think a major one is confidence as well, because I think a lot of the time when you've grown up neurodiverse and everything, you've had a lot of maybe challenges around maybe like fitting in class, doing well in class, all that kind of thing. So I think having someone in your corner that is really championing you is a major part as well.
Yeah, I think it's so funny you mentioned about sort of the being organised stuff. I feel like there's either sort of two options.
Yeah.
I'm either super organised and everything's in track, or like at home, for example, it's like a bomb hit the house because stuff is everywhere. But in my head, it's like an organised chaos, but no one else can see it as being organised. Like to my boyfriend, it's just a mess. So it's just.
Whereas I get overwhelmed with mess, so I hide everything and just put things in drawers, and then my boyfriend will be like, "Where is everything?" I'm like, "Oh, obviously it's in like the black footstool." Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, you'll know where everything is, but no one else will.
It's really fascinating to hear the different traits. Like, thank you both so much. So on that note, let's chat about what we can potentially do more of. And George, I'm actually going to come straight back to you for this one. So what's one small thing that someone can do today to better support a neurodivergent individual? I mean, you've shared some things that work's done, but what about an individual?
I think the main thing is educating yourself, I think, because the thing is, and asking that person what they need, because I don't think there's necessarily any, like, obviously there's guidelines and training and everything, but each person is so individual and everyone has different experiences, like before we even start on like intersectionality and everything like that. So I think it is very getting to know the people in your team, talking about neurodiversity, because also not everyone is really open about neurodiversity. So by educating your team and talking about it, people might be more confident to be open about it. So I think, awareness, openness, and education, I think, really.
Fabulous. Thanks, Georgia.
Not one thing, but...
Georgia stole my answer.
So you're exactly the same.
Yeah, so I think it's for me, the biggest thing is around getting to know your people. So what I mean by that is I think the thing that makes navigating neurodiversity so complicated is that there isn't a one-size-fits-all. Yeah. And, you've got two people who on paper are both autistic, but they could be completely opposite ends of the spectrum. One person might be able to hold down a job. Yeah. They might be able to function, but with support that they kind of put in place themselves. Whereas the other end, you might have someone who's not able to function, who needs sort of a daily carer, sort of one-to-one support all the time. So the needs of those two people are completely different. So I think it's just trying to understand what the people in your team actually need and what's going to work for them. Yeah. And I think the other thing would be around not making assumptions. So if you're saying, okay, well, that worked for this person, I'll just assume it's going to work for them and I'll put it in place.
Cool.
Whereas if you don't even have that conversation with the person to find out what they actually need, it's like you're doing the right thing, but the action behind it is kind of wrong. Yeah. So it's just kind of taking that time to actually know your people.
Cool. Interesting. Jazz, over to you.
Yeah. So you've mentioned what we can do in our teams as individuals, but is there more that Sky could be doing to support their colleagues who are neurodivergent? I'll come to you, Georgia.
Megan actually might be better at it.
Oh, pass the baton.
That's
or the
okay.
baton.
So I think one of the biggest thing is sort of the allyship side of it, because I think, like George said, like our network, we're really building it, but a lot of our members are people who have joined it because they are neurodiverse themselves. Yeah. So I think just like with the women network, you can have men in that network. It's kind of like the neurodiversity network is open to everyone, and it's kind of like, even if you're not neurodiverse yourself, it's about supporting colleagues who are, and it's educating yourself to sort of better help other people. I think one of the other things is it'll be really great if neurodiversity and disabilities were a standalone network, which we are working on, because I think at the moment the visibility of the network, where we sit under body and mind, it doesn't fit.
Okay.
And we actually had this conversation with the Disability Advisory Council last year when we met with them, and everyone was like, it doesn't make sense being under body and mind, because when you think of body and mind, you typically might think of like well-being, how you're feeling.
Absolutely,
Whereas
yeah.
disability and neurodiversity, it's just a completely different beast. And I think even from the point of view of a new starter joining Sky, if you were looking for a disability or neurodiversity network, you wouldn't think looking body and mind.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a really fair point
Yeah.
as well. And from this conversation, you can see there's so many different layers to it as well.
it is so complex,
It's
so,
very complex, isn't it? And you're right. I've never really considered it, but body and mind, you do think well-being, and
Yeah.
you think
Yeah.
you know that would be what you would experience there as well. George, anything you would add to that?
Yeah, I think just there's also like training for managers on Skylearn.
Yeah.
So I think that's like a very useful thing for everyone to do, whether you're managing people or not.
yeah.
And yeah, I think there's lots of different systems in place at Sky, but I think it's probably just an awareness piece
Definitely,
and
yeah.
getting everything to everyone, because we work in such a big organisation. It's that much harder to make sure everyone knows everything. But yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Georgia.
Fabulous. I suppose final question for this before we move into something a little bit different. So what advice? And Megan, I'm going to come to you for this one. Well, straight in.
Okay.
So what advice would you give to someone that's just starting to understand their own neurodivergent journey?
So I would say definitely like take the time to talk to people, because I think you learn so much from like hearing people's experiences, and like even when you're speaking to someone, it's all like there might be so many things that resonate with you and how you're feeling. It's kind of like that almost validation that you're not alone in how you're feeling, and that it's normal to not be normal type of thing. Just educating yourself online, like it can be a difficult one to navigate because there is so much information online, so it's trying to understand what's the right information. But I think it's just kind of like getting recommendations from people, trying to understand sort of like what's worked for other people so that they can then sort of help you as well.
Fabulous, great advice. And George, anything to add to that?
I'd say also just like give yourself grace with it, because it's always a journey. I probably don't fully understand what is ADHD and what is me and that kind of thing, like where the two are and everything like that. So I think it's a long journey to unpack, and then I think there's like quite a lot of good speakers and influencer type people who are like really advocating for the community, like Ellie Middleton for me is like a really great one.
She's great, isn't she?
Yeah.
Follow her on LinkedIn, actually.
Yeah.
She does a lot of posts and educates around about that as well.
Yeah,
Nice.
so I went to one of her book events, and it was just like really nice because you're just in a room with like a load of other neurodiverse people. There was little gift bags where we all got fidget toys. The only issue is they were clicking ones.
Oh, that could have been
Yeah.
distracting.
So I was like, I'm really glad that everyone's getting to fidget right now, but I cannot concentrate on a thing because they're noisy. But yeah, so I think like it takes time, give yourself grace, and
I
just
think, to
find
be
people.
honest, I don't think the journey will ever end.
Yeah.
I think there's always going to be stuff that we're going to have to work on, and it's not kind of like there's no magic cure or magic remedy that's going to solve all our issues. Like it is a lifelong thing that we have to deal with, so it's just trying to figure out how we can make it work for us in the best way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really important point to recognise, actually, that is that journey ever done, and that's okay, to what you've both alluded to. On that note, thank you both so much for being really honest, the advice that you've given across the challenges, the positives, and how you guys obviously deal with things on a day-to-day basis. We're going to move into a little bit of a additional fun now, I suppose is the right phrase.
let's have a bit of fun. So now, Megan, you're the mastermind behind arranging events for the Neurodiversity Network, and of course Georgia, the brilliant creative brilliance that you are when it comes to branding for many events. So we thought that we'd put you both to the test.
Woo!
And we're going to play a quick game.
Here we
so,
are.
okay.
So, yep. So, I'm going to list 2 events at the same time, and we've got an added challenge here. So, normally you're individual, you get to choose on your own, but you're going to have to agree as a collective. So, it's called the winner stays on. So, I'll throw two events or situations at you guys, and you'll need to decide out of the 2 which one are you moving forward before then introduce another one. All good?
Yep.
Right, okay. I've had to get my head around what some of these are myself. But I'll speak about that as we move through. So first up, Georgia and Megan, Creamfields or Coachella?
Coachella.
Okay, I'll go with you for that. I don't have a strong opinion on that one.
Oh, well, Georgia, it's over to you then.
Coachella, yeah, we can take that one.
Coachella, cool. Coachella or Dogfest? I actually thought Dogfest was a rock festival, by the way.
What is Dogfest? Is it
With dogs.
is it like an actual dog show kind of thing?
think
Let's
so.
just go with that.
Yeah, dogs
Yeah,
running
it
around.
sounds like
Dogs.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's dogs, so Dogfest.
So we're moving
Okay.
Dogfest forward.
Yeah.
Final answer.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Dogfest or Isle of Wight Festival?
Well, it depends how loyal we're staying to the Sky brand.
Does it depend who's on at the Isle of Wight Festival as
Yeah.
well? Are the dogs there?
Dogfest.
Yeah, dogs.
Oh, God. Dogfest. Dogfest is champion the way. Dogfest or Download Festival?
Are you still dogs?
I'm still dogs, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like this is going to be dogs all the way here. Dogfest. Oh. Dogfest or
Game changer.
Dogfest or Paws in the Park?
Or what?
Paws in the Park, which I imagine is maybe dogs running around a park. I don't know, but that sounds fun.
I don't know. What park is it?
Do you
Dogfest.
fancy a
Yeah.
fest or do you fancy a park?
Dogfest.
Dogfest.
Dogfest. Okay. Dogfest, or you've got to really think. Are you guys football fans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dogfest or the FA Cup final, and your team is in the final.
Oh, God, FA Cup final, no question.
I'm with you guys
No
there.
question.
Out of interest, who do you support?
No, I'll be kicked out.
Who is it? I'm a Man United fan, so that's like.
Okay, well, you can't comment on anything then.
There we go. I'll take that.
Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Brentford.
Oh, okay. Jazz, you know.
Man United.
Okay. So FA
Moving
Cup
on.
finals in the lead. FA Cup final with your team, whether it's Brentford or Chelsea.
What was the laugh there?
Or the
I don't
Wireless
think Brentford
Festival.
will make it.
I can't laugh at anything, can I? No.
No, because you'll never make it
Yeah,
either.
exactly. FA Cup final or Wireless Festival.
FA Cup.
FA Cup.
Yep, okay. FA Cup final or Crufts.
FA Cup.
Okay. FA Cup final or Glastonbury.
Right, this is very difficult for me because I love Glastonbury.
No, FA Cup.
What if your ideal your favorite ideal artist? What the hell is that? Your favorite artist of all time was performing at Glastonbury.
Yeah, that would be difficult.
Can we have both?
Sorry.
Unfortunately not.
It's your 5-second
Do you want to
countdown.
rock, paper, scissors for it?
Go on.
Who am I? Am I Glastonbury?
You're Glastonbury, I'm
It's the only way to do
FA
it.
Cup. Right.
RPS.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Yes, FA Cup.
FA Cup final.
Yeah.
Cool. Fabulous. Brilliant. So there we go. Chelsea or Brentford? We'll go with both.
That's fine, then
Chelseaford.
we'll win.
There we go, Chelmsford. That'll do. Cool. So I suppose for people watching, people listening, do you agree with Megan or George's decision? Who knows? Leave it in the comments wherever they may be. Jazz, over to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kev. So before we wrap up, we have a tradition here at Talking About, where each guest they will answer a question from our previous guest. So we had Andrew Orr, who's the head of the originals at Sky Cinema. So he's left a question for you both. And the question is, what's your favourite rewatchable film? Now, it's not necessarily your all-time favourite, but it's that one that if it comes on TV, you just have to watch it. Kev, what's yours?
I mean, my favourite rewatchable film will always be, not to make this about me, sorry guys, but I've seen Titanic 54 times, so it will be Titanic. I may as well make it 55.
55.
I would say mine might be a bit of a niche one, but it's like Angus Thongs and Perfect Snogging because I used to watch it so much.
Never heard of
I've
this.
never heard
So
of this.
it came out
What
when
is
I
it?
was like
Yeah,
in
2008,
school,
2006.
and like I literally just kept it on and watched it like every night. And the main
Know it word
character's
for
called
word.
Georgia. So
I'm scared to
Yeah,
ask,
fair.
what is it about?
oh, it's just like a coming of age.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
right,
can't really
okay.
describe it. It's just a bit,
It's just
yeah.
coming of age.
Nice, I love a coming of age drama.
Oh, I feel like it depends what mood I'm in,
Okay.
and what phase I'm in, because I have phases of things. So, one that I did watch, and I would watch if it was on, Hamilton.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because obviously they released the
That's a musical. We're thinking of the same thing, aren't we?
yeah, but they released a film version of the musical
Oh, have that?
on Disney Plus during lockdown, and that was just like on repeat all the time.
Heaven.
So it would have to be the film rather
Oh,
than
yeah.
the musical. Right,
Yeah.
Okay.
Jazz, what's yours out of interest?
You know, I was thinking Step Brothers. It's
Okay.
just easy watching. You don't really need to think about it. You know, you can look away and then it's just, yeah, I find it funny. I know.
I've never
it's
seen
like,
Step Brothers.
Have you not?
No.
Well, that's the thing. It's Will Ferrell. He's a bit like Marmite. Some people like him, some people don't. But
I'll not comment.
but yeah, I've got to say Step Brothers is one that I could watch on repeat.
Fabulous, cool.
Awesome.
Well, Megan, Georgia, thank you so much. I've thoroughly enjoyed that. And Jazz, thank you. It's been amazing
Excellent. Thank you so
to
much, Kev.
co-host.
And before we leave the studio, we are going to be asking you to pick a random question for our next guest on our next podcast. But huge thank you for those who have been watching, and thank you so much as well to you both for sharing your experiences and insight.
Cool. Yes, as Jazz said, thanks to those of you that have been watching. On the next episode next month, we'll be joined by Harriet Sykes and Katie Heppel, and we'll be talking all things Pride. Thank you. Bye.